Normally, I like to use this portion of an episode to kind of set things up. Maybe share something that you weren't expecting about this upcoming arc, or set up a story point. But we've got a really clean break between how Cats in the Cradle ended and where our story picks up here, so why disturb that? I also like to open on a pleasant note, get us all hyped up for the coming comic book goodness. Not this time, baby. Artist Daniel LuVisi has been providing covers for the Secret Six for a while now. I think it was since issue 8 or 9 or 10. In general, I've been enjoying his work, except for the cover to issue 25. If you aren't driving, give it a quick Google. I like the idea behind it. LuVisi has set the cover up as a character select screen from a fighting game, like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. He has all of the Secret Six on here, both teams of them, Bane's team and Scandal's. Deadshot and Dwarfstar occupy the left and right half of the cover, their character icons selected. LuVisi is telling us that the Six will be fighting the Six, so enjoy the game. But LuVisi lightens up his artwork, leaning more towards the animated style of Street Fighter or Guilty Gear, when his normal style on these covers has been more similar to the gritty realism of Mortal Kombat. His Deadshot has this complicated mechanical neckpiece instead of just his usual armor, and his head is like a white glob with a red eye. I think I've mentioned Jason Wright's usual trick of doing lots of heavy grays on Deadshot's head to give it shape and make it look like more than just a white blob. Well, LuVisi doesn't put in that extra time, so glob it is. Dwarfstar's eyes are too small, and that king shark on there just looks like he's melting. This cover does not do the interior justice. Now, let's move on to some better things. My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown episode Secret 6.13, The Reptile Brain, Part 1. Mr. Adrian has had to sail for a long time in order to hit nowhere. But God bless, he's done it. His head of security, Mr. Tompkins, confirms that no one is around, but he'll remain armed, thank you, as will his men. Mr. Adrian, on the other hand, is going to kick back and enjoy the sun in his Speedo. He doesn't want to burn, though, so he asks his 2 bikini-clad ladies to sunscreen him up. Tracy hesitates, but pushes through when Adrian asks if she doesn't like this. But she does. She assures him, yeah, absolutely, and she pushes through. Her expression says otherwise. Tompkins informs his boss of an approaching speedboat. Cursing those tourists, Adrian tells him to put the men on alert, just in case. He puts the men on alert by taking an arrow to the eye. Dwarfstar climbs off of the arrow's fletching. Is there any champagne left for him? King Shark jumps up from the sea, tearing through the ship's railing easily. On the approaching speedboat, Jeanette comments to Bane that their old team would have been much quieter about this. Bane promises that discipline will come, perhaps even stealth. Giganta increases her size and lifts the entire yacht out of the water. Then again, maybe not. She drops it, shaking the security detail up nicely. Bane then boards the vessel, ordering those men to stand down. If they go for their weapons or resist in any way, they will be killed. He then escorts Mr. Adrian inside. Adrian's soon-to-be ex-wife has some demands. First off, she wants the money that he stole back, and secondly, she wants custody of their sons. Adrian can't believe this, promising him that he will do no such thing. Bane lifts the large man overhead. That's what she was hoping, you would say. On deck, Giganta and Jeanette aren't thrilled to find themselves surrounded by what appears to be U.S. Navy vessels. Spy Smasher, from our first Birds of Prey arc, Whitewater, addresses them. The U.S. doesn't look well on seajacking or piracy these days, which isn't to say that she wants a fight. She's come here to hire the Secret Six. So, who the hell are these freaks? Ah, another efficient Gail Simone scene. Introduce sleazy, gross target, have the Six demonstrate their powers and name them all, and with Calafiore on art, they look good doing it. 6.5 pages, and they've told us so much. It's just impressive, is what this is. If you haven't been paying attention, a refresher. Thanks to the events of Cats in the Cradle, Scandal, Catman, Deadshot, Ragdoll, and Black Alice have left the Secret Six and are kind of doing their own thing. Bane and Jeanette then hired on new recruits, the Shrinking Dwarf Star, the Enlarging Giganta, Weapons Master Lady Vic, and the Ferocious King Shark to take their place. This is the first time that we've seen this unit in the field, and they performed admirably. Spy Smasher is a government operative who once tried to take over the superhero team, the Birds of Prey. Cold, manipulative, and insensitive to those she was working with, Smasher quickly pissed the birds off, and so they gave her the boot. Having her show up here tells us that whatever she's up to, the government wants it off the books. She's hiring supervillains, after all. It also tells us that the job is so dangerous as to require metahumans, and that Spy Smasher has no allies of her own. Despite seeing herself as a replacement for Oracle, who ran the birds, Smasher has no Rolodex of friends to call upon. So she calls upon the Six. One version of them, anyway. In Rutland, Vermont, Deadshot is dressed in his civvies as he's visiting the doctor. Not his doctor, though. He's visiting the man who's overseeing Lori Zecklin's father, a.k.a. Black Alice's dad. The one that she may have given cancer to. Loudon wants to know if Alice could have done just that. The doctor resists answering at first, but Loudon has a gun and a very pressing disposition, so he cracks. The growth that he saw in Dad was highly irregular, too fast for normal cancer. If she can do what Loudon says she can, then yes, it's highly likely that she did this. Okay then. So here's what the doctor is going to do next. He's going to call Alice and tell her that whatever happened to her paw, it isn't her fault. Again, the doctor protests, but once again, Loudon persuades him. Aww, that's freaking adorable. Terrifying for that doctor and probably immoral, but let's say it again. An ignoble deed done for noble reasons. I've mentioned before that despite his gruff exterior, Loudon is very perceptive in regards to the feelings of his allies. He saw Alice freak out in Africa, and he's trying to do something to help. And honestly, no one else in this half of the Six is trying to help her. Simone is demonstrating that Loudon cares. He just doesn't show it in a healthy way. Before we move on, I'm not sure if our location is a mistake or not. The House of Secrets is located in Rutland, Vermont, but here our opening happens in Rutland, Vermont. But are we actually in another location, or is this just an error? We haven't seen what the status quo is for either half of the Six yet. Who kept the House of Secrets? Where is Scandal's half staying? I'll just keep my eye out, I guess. We do catch up with Catman, who strips down at a zoo and climbs into the lion exhibit. One of the cats approaches him and licks his hand. He apologizes to the cat. Then he punches her in the face. Oh, Thomas. He's stopped by the arrival of Scandal, Ragdoll, and Black Alice via her borrowed teleporting. Catman tells them that they don't know him, and he doesn't know them. Just leave him be. Scandal can see the depressed suicide attempt here, and she tells Blake that she'll do it. They're friends, and if he really wants to die, then she'll do it for him. Catman tells her to shut up, saying that all you damn humans ever do is talk. She then tells him that the zoo will kill every lion there if they do kill him. They have to. And this gives him pause. At least until the zoo staff arrive. They order Blake to leave, shouting that they're going to tranquilize the lions. Catman's anger shifts from himself to the security guards. He launches over the railing and proceeds to beat them all senseless. Meanwhile, Black Alice has a phone call. Someone shouts for Blake to stop, and he turns, eager for more prey. A woman stands nearby, Loughton behind her, and her own squad of armed men. She is Roshana Chatterjee, and her men are not poorly trained security guards. She has the exit secured for the Six, but she needs Catman to put some clothes on. Loughton, surprisingly, backs her up. And yeah, Catman puts on some pants. Chatterjee explains that they're headed to the Amazon in order to capture or kill the other Secret Six, as ordered by Mockingbird, a.k.a. Amanda Waller, which we know, but the Six don't at this point. Alice's call is from her father's oncologist, and holy crap, she didn't give her dad cancer. This is great news. She hugs Loughton, the nearest member of the Six, who grimaces. That's great. Great news, kid. Awesome. So we have a lot happening here before we move on, so let's take a look at it. First off, Catman is back. Physically, at least, if not mentally. He's clearly still reeling from his trip down Evil Lane on his way to Torture Town, and good. As a character who is struggling with his morality, I'm glad to see that Blake was affected by his actions. He did what he felt he had to, but he's also aware that he did some horrible things. So horrible that he wants to die. But interestingly, he chooses to die at the hands of animals. When Scandal tries to talk to him, he says, quote, "You humans," unquote, implying that he doesn't see himself as human, or at least he doesn't want to be a human anymore. I'm not sure of his narrative here, though. We left Catman in San Diego, where he killed Macquarie, and he then switched to the normal disheveled clothing, crossed the country to Vermont, and then punched a lioness in the face. That's a lot of work to do to get a random animal to kill you. And there's a freaking world-class zoo in San Diego. Why not have the lions there kill him? Perhaps he went all the way to Vermont to possibly die because some part of him was hoping that his friends could come and stop him. Was this a desperate, unconscious cry for help? Because once the Six do confront him and he's presented with a mission, he does go along with them. How sweet of Scandal to offer to kill him, though. Oh man, the things this book will make you say. I don't remember Chatterjee appearing here at all. I like the character's general design, though. She has on this brownish fuchsia uniform. I like the color, with a cream-colored shawl-looking thing over top. Is it memorable? Honestly, not really. Nor does it tell us much about Chatterjee as a person or her background, other than that she isn't standard military. She might be working for Waller, but she's something special. Speaking of Waller, I'm glad that her role in this book hasn't evaporated. It's strange that she's sicking this Six on the other Six, given that Spy Smashers hired Bane's group. Has one of these women gone rogue? Are they both operating as per government orders, but at cross purposes? Is this some form of government infighting? I'm not going to theorize too much here, as there are just so many possible setups and outcomes for these two. Again, their general status quo is so unknown to us, the audience, that really anything could be happening here. It's more weird that Deadshot is totally cool with Chatterjee needing the Six, though. He has rebelled and threatened a potential employer at every turn, but here he has no problem. Given his history with the Suicide Squad and Waller in general, can Deadshot see through this government agent? He does pick up on things faster than the rest of us. Simone has shown us that. So is he one step ahead this time around? Guess we'll see. We catch up with Bane's Six just after they've arrived in Skartartis. What in the name of Superman shorts is Skartartis? A fair question. In pop culture terms, Skartartis is like if Conan's Cimmeria slept with Jurassic Park and then crawled into Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth. It's a jungle/fantasy land that's occupied with barbarians, dinosaurs, wizards, there's ruins from Atlantis, and of course monsters. The sun occupies the center of the orb that is Skartartis, so there is no night here. Time is wibbly-wobbly too. Back in the 70s, DC published a book called Warlord that was set in this location, created by Mike Grell. I don't know much else about it, and I want to explore this location with you guys, so I haven't done a lot of research. Even this basic information that I'm presenting to you now is actually told to us by Chatterjee in the next issue, so it's not like I'm skipping ahead. Well, I guess it is like I'm skipping ahead, but I'm not, cheating. Bane's 6 are perched in a wooden nest, high upon a hill overlooking the land. Massive brachiosaurs wade through a river nearby. Thick jungles reach all of the way to the horizon, broken by an angry volcano with a mysterious city in the forest. Various types of pteranodon fill the sky, and our cast is flabbergasted. Except for Bane. Giganta is pretty confused, but for Bane, this may be the only world that he actually understands. Small talk reveals that Dwarf Star knows of a similar place that both of the Atoms have been to, but it's only accessible by shrinking, and he knows when he's shrunk. And this isn't it. This catches Giganta's interest. He knows the Atom? They're dating, actually. He smiles at this. Small world, huh? Jeanette and Bane turn their attention to leaving this wooden enclosure, despite having not realized that it's actually a nest. King Shark is actually the first to come to this realization, spotting a flock of griffins returning to their home. Jeanette punches one of the griffins, but it's Bane and King who really take to the fight. The team manages to drive the creatures off, and Jeanette suggests that they return to Earth through the portal they came here by. Giganta tries to do so, but the portal is gone. Bane, meanwhile, has flown away with one of the griffins. He wraps a thick arm around its neck and apologizes. He knows that he's the invading foreign life form here. Then he breaks its neck and lands in the river. He swims to shore and, pleasantly, finds himself surrounded by natives. They're wearing some armor, animal pelts, and are armed with swords and axes. Excellent. He then declares that this land is now a legal territory of the United States. Scandal's team, on the other side of that portal, are given their mission by Chatterjee. They are to defend America's honor by stopping Bane's team from conquering Skartartis. In exchange, their records will be expunged. All criminal activity, gone. A fresh start by presidential decree. Hard to believe that this group is the one handling such a job, huh? We also learn that Chatterjee goes by Tremor in the field, threatening to liquefy Scandal's hand when she touches her shoulder. So we know that she has some kind of superpower related to either vibrations or earthquakes. That explains why she has such a unique costume. I love the idea of some part of the US military apparatus wanting to claim Skartartis. It's very on brand. I'm not sure exactly why Spy Smasher wants Skartartis, or why the US would, but this is a fantastic setup for a 6 versus 6 battle. Getting a better feel for Bane's team is nice as well, and I love Bane's enthusiasm for this particular job. He's a strategist, really a conqueror, but he rarely gets to use either of those titles. Here, everything is trying to kill everything else in a war for domination. And if there's one thing Bane knows, it's domination. So dope. Let's trek deeper into these jungles. There's a brief pause as the natives try to process Bane's decree. Many of them don't speak English, so they're at a loss for what this huge muscular figure is saying, except for a woman named Lorena. She speaks the Outworld tongue. Has Bane come as a friend? He replies no, as a conqueror. Lorena thanks him for his honesty, and signals the others to attack. Bane makes short work of the natives, gaining a battle axe which he uses as both a weapon and a shield. Lorena shouts for them to get reinforcements. They're clearly fighting a god here. Holding the second-to-last fighter by his neck, Bane asks Lorena if they're willing to surrender. Lorena asks him if he would surrender in their position. Bane replies he would not. He then snaps the man's neck. Lorena warns Bane that soon he'll be facing an army, which is when Jeanette and the rest of the 6 arrive. She smiles. Good thing that Bane brought one as well. Other than demonstrating Bane's proficiency with a battle axe, Simone is also setting up her next move. We, as the audience, understand how dangerous the Six can be, but Simone is really showing the people of Skartartis this. Bane and his allies could be a great weapon for them, and Lorena now knows it. On Earth, in Washington, D.C., Spy Smasher is reading the paper as she eats her lunch. As we join her, so does Amanda Waller. They chat, comparing how dangerous they are in a Liefeldian threat-off. My snipers can kill you, but then your snipers will kill me, yada yada yawn. Waller is the one who finally cuts through the crap and gets to brass tacks. She wants Smasher's team out of Skartartis immediately. The US has no business being there, and whatever resources they can take aren't worth it. The disease and death that will be unleashed on those people is shameful. Smasher dodges the issue, telling Waller that she isn't in the loop on this. She's implicating that the chain of command has cut her out, and Waller doesn't buy it. There is no way that's true. Smasher then tells her that in 2 weeks there will be a nuclear strike on US soil, and they're going to let it happen. Waller didn't know that either. Smasher then leaves, warning Waller to get out of the country. It's not like she can even find Smasher's team in time anyway. Waller sneers at this. Challenge accepted. You see, I think that Smasher revealed her hand with that last taunt. Bamfing spy games, it's almost as bad as magic. So, I actually like Simone setting up Spy Smasher here in the Secret Six. I liked her in the Birds of Prey as a foil for Oracle, and she's playing a similar role here, but for Waller instead. I didn't comment on it back in Whitewater, but I like the idea of Spy Smasher as like the anti-Oracle. A woman with goals and a Rolodex calling in whatever portion of the superhero community she needs in order to accomplish those goals. But where Oracle gets it done through consideration and kindness, Smasher would get things done by threatening people way outside of her weight level, and of course this would come back to bite her in the butt. That isn't what's happening here, but I clearly think that Smasher has some character potential, and I'm glad to see her still active in the DCU. I also think that having someone act as a foil to Waller is clever. As someone with a long history, deep hooks in the world, and her own ruthlessness, Waller tends to know everything, and she tends to get what she wants. Having a new young buck try to unseat her feels inevitable, even if it's probably ill thought out. Waller is where she is for a reason, and you have to be better than that in order to knock her out. Smasher already failed to manipulate the Birds of Prey. I find it unlikely that she can manipulate the Wall. Back to my earlier thought, I think the nuclear strike thing is a fake-out, and Smasher herself tells Waller that. She doesn't address the issue of her team in Skartartis at all during this conversation. Instead, she throws out the idea of a nuclear strike for Waller to chase. It comes out of nowhere. Waller has no idea about it, which is unlikely, and after setting up that goose for Waller to chase, Smasher tells her that she won't find her team anyway. It's one last dig at her, and it shows her hand. Smasher wants Waller chasing that threat in order to keep her away from the Skartartis thing. But Waller is already working on the Skartartis thing, and we move back to Waller's proxy, Tremor, and Scandals 6. They've reached the portal that leads to Skartartis, but there's some strange hesitation to go into a portal leading to who knows where to go after some people that the Six might not actually care to go after. Except for Catman. This place is as far away from here as you can get, yeah? Then he'll go. The rest justify their choice by saying that the government is willing to clear their records, but I think that they're mainly going after Blake and Bane. So in they go. Even jaded Floyd Loughton is floored by the sight of Skartartis. Tremor comes through last, warning and informing the team with what intel they have. The first squad that they sent here were Navy SEALs, Iraq veterans all. None of them returned. She takes the lead and continues the expositional drop, basically covering what I already told you. You see, sometimes you don't need a geek to research for you. The author actually does their job and sets up the world that you're inhabiting. Gail Simone is just such an author. Tremor finishes her speech by saying that the water is safe, at least, but the team may want or need to shed their clothing in order to stay cool. Catman takes her up on that, stripping down to boots, his knives, and his undies. Tremor, who has remained calm and detached this whole time, flounders at the sight of Catman. He walks past her and dives into the nearest body of water. Tremor freaks. The water is safe to drink, not swim in! A massive, three-headed, tentacle fish thing with teeth like swords rises from the depths, Catman clutched in one slimy tentacle. The rest of the six jump into action, Scandal ordering Alice to get some magic. She summons Wonder Woman's powers, but nothing happens. Oh, crap. Scandal swims out and joins in the fight, but her blades are barely making an impact. It takes Tremor unleashing a vibrational wave to tear the monster apart. So there's her superpower. Scandal reaches for Blake to see if he's alright, but he slashes her hand, his mind still in that dark place. Between Blake's mindset and Alice's lack of powers, Tremor may have picked the wrong half of the six to back. The main thing that Simone is telling us here is about Tremor. She's cold and detached, as noted earlier, but she's not emotionless. When Catman walks by almost naked, she's surprised and possibly attracted to him. And who hasn't been at this point? When Blake dives into the waters, she tells him to stop, concerned for his life. We obviously get to see her powers, at least a little bit. Tremor, as the proxy for Master Spy Amanda Waller, is definitely giving me the same feeling as Quake from Marvel Comics, who also has vibrational powers and is a proxy for Master Spy Nick Fury. Tremor is a lot less annoying, though. Quake only really worked for me as a character in Jonathan Hickman's Secret Warriors, and anything other than that has been young adult garbage. I can't help but wonder if Catman dove into those waters to protect his teammates from an upcoming threat, or if he was hoping to die. We saw him attempt suicide by animal last issue, and it's not like anything has really changed since then. Between that and his poor reaction to Scandal's concern, I'm really beginning to worry about Blake. Bane's six have reached Lorina's village and are preparing to eat some boar. Jeanette isn't really convinced of the need for their presence here, but Bane insists. They need the strong leadership of the U.S. Lorena explains that a warlord named Travis Morgan once ruled them. His son now rules Skartartis. Across the river is the land of Quito, ruled by Machiste the Destroyer. And, here she gets on her knees, her village will ally with Bane if he kills their enemies. Who are those enemies? I'm not sure. But Bane's enemies are getting closer. With Catman tracking in the lead, the others assess the situation. Alice is sure that her powers still work, but she can't feel any of the magical beings she normally uses. Tremor states that they are clearly outmatched. Bane's team has Jeanette and Giganta for sheer muscle. Which is true. Short of Dwarf Star and maybe Lady Vic, I'd say that Bane's team wins in just sheer strength. But Scandal's team's got the Crazy going for them. Crazy can outfight Muscles any day of the week. The six have shown this throughout their existence. And hey, can't Black Alice steal Jeanette's powers anyway? So that would take her out of Bane's team with almost no effort, so long as Alice stayed conscious anyway. Deadshot then asks Tremor why Waller, Mockingbird, gives a crap about any of this, and he legitimately says Waller. Which means that Deadshot did guess at Waller's involvement last issue. Tremor dodges the question, but Alice answers for her. It's colonization, a superior force subjugating an entire civilization. There's always murder, theft, rape, and the destruction of an entire culture. She picks up a stone to use as her weapon. She says that she wants them to fight. Wow, this isn't just a job for Alice. This is a personal mission. Good for you, girl. Finally, some convictions. Eventually, the team arrives. Scandal asks them not to kill Jeanette. She'll take Bane. And then it's 6-on-6 action. Alice threatens to steal Jeanette's powers, and Jeanette knows what that'll do to her. So, she chooses not to fight at all. Deadshot fires on Lady Vic, who doesn't apologize, but acknowledges that she threatened Deadshot's family back in the miniseries, and he just keeps firing at her. Giganta picks up Tremor, restraining her. Ragdoll wraps King Shark up in his limbs. And Bane refuses to fight Scandal. She punches him. She tackles him. She wants him to fight. Damn you! You aren't my father! He grabs one of her arms by the wrist. No, he isn't. But he wishes he was. Then he pulls her blades against his throat. He is so proud of her. Bleeding, he falls to the ground. Join me in a week for Reptile Brain, Part 2. Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me, to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.